Today we are doing midpoints. Remember your notes, so you are writing in them what you feel like you need. If we're color coding and you're like, that color coding doesn't make sense to me, it looks like they're just coloring their page for funsies. What do you get to use your notes on? Your test and your homework. One-pager, homework. We don't do a lot of quizzes in our class, so I think last year we did 1 or 2 quizzes total in geometry as for the whole year. But we do a lot of tests, but you get to use them on your homework and you get to use them on your tests. So taking clear notes is going to be really helpful for your understanding. When you have questions on your homework, yesterday some people had some questions. What you should do when you have questions on your homework? Ask questions. Good. Okay, ask a teacher, ask a peer. What else? Look at your notes. One other strategy? You all have it at your table. No? Work it out on a whiteboard. So a couple of you worked it out on that whiteboard. You redrew that picture, even though there's already a picture in Schoology. Sometimes redrawing it so you can write on it and annotate it is important. All right, here we go with the midpoints. Starting the lesson now. I don't know I went on that little tangent, but I did. Not a lot of sleep last night, people. All right, midpoints. Midpoint is the point exactly halfway between the endpoints of a segment. So yesterday when we had a point, just jazzed. Wait, stay there, mister. Just wait. Thanks. So if we look at if we look at this room, look at people as points, and Miss Sider and I are a segment. There's a line connecting Miss and I. I'm the beginning, she's the end, or vice versa. She's the beginning, I'm the end. How many points are between us?
People are points. How many points are between us?
If we drew a line, about how many people would be on that line? How many students?
Yeah, if everyone were here, maybe. Today we've got Ian, Pamela, and Agia, right?
Yep. Which one is the midpoint, though? Good, Pamela. Yeah. Right? You're the middle of us two?
If we walk together to the middle, right about where we reach our middle, I'll be right behind you, right? About your closest.
So let's draw that out. We're going to have a segment. Let's call it JH. And I want P to be the midpoint. So that means we want it to be exactly in the middle. Now, when we draw this, do we need to measure it and have it be exact? No, because we have a couple things here, we're going to show that. So I'm going to have J here in orange, if you want to use your colored pencils.
Now we could use a ruler, measure our line, divide it by 2, put our point exactly in the middle. Can anyone think of what we've already learned that we can do to 2 equal parts with a point in the middle? How could we show that that is the middle? The dash. What does the dash tell us? They're equal, they're congruent on both sides. Very good. So remember how that means that both sides are the same, they're equal.
Okay, P is that midpoint. Because it's right in the middle, we know it's exactly in the middle, both sides end up being the same. So let's just say that this is like 3 centimeters. If J... What? The other side, and what's the name of the other side? Segment PH is 3 centimeters. And there's one more, the whole thing. Segment J to H is how long total? Add them, or you could do 3 times 2. Yep, either way. Okay, so we know then that JP, that first half of that segment, what was that word that meant this tick mark, that they were the same? Congruent is congruent to segment PH. Let's write that word congruent there. And remember, congruent means that they are the same, which means that they are equal. So congruent, same, or equal. If you want to write all those words down, you can, or if you just feel like you know what congruent means, or you back at one page, that's fine too. All right, we have one more vocabulary word today, and then we just have 3 examples that we're going to go through. All right, our one other word is that we have segment bisector. Segment bisector. We're going to keep this definition really simple. Last year I made it really complex. What is that prefix bi? Yeah, like a bicycle is 2, right? If you're bisexual, you like 2 genders. Bi means 2. Okay. Biannual means you get paid twice a year. Okay. So bi means to cut into 2. That cuts a segment into 2 equal parts. So that's where that bisector comes from, is into 2 equal parts. Hi. Awesome. We're right in the middle of the notes, so if you want to just try and jump down maybe about halfway through your page, and then we'll get you caught up afterwards, okay? That bisector means to cut into 2 equal parts. Or equal sections. Get it? Sector, sections, words. It's great. All right, we're going to do 3 examples. So here's our first example. When I number my examples, I like to put my number on the outside of that red line. You'll notice that as we go. You can put your number wherever you want. It's your choice. Your notes. All right, we know that point L is the midpoint. Whoa, that's not a P. Segment JM. Okay, I know that JM is 26 inches. My goal is to find ML. So point L is the midpoint of segment JM. We know JM is 26 inches. Remember when you see that IN? Most of the time in geometry, sometimes it means there. I don't know. I'm going to try and find ML. So what should we do here? How are we going to solve this problem?
Does anyone feel like they could start it right in their head, like you're working through it right now, really? Why? Yeah. Yeah?
You got it.
Nice. Okay, so if you are like, you can jump right in here and say, I know I need to split it in half, because midpoint means middle. So I'm going to take my 26, because that's the total, and I'm going to cut it in half, then I know each half is 26 divided by 2, which is what? 13. If you are not able to quite visualize that, then you might want to do what I would probably do, which is draw it out.
So
We're going to draw our line.
I would start with the full segment first.
And what is the name or how this full segment? What do we know? J and M. And we know that because we were given point L is the midpoint of line segment J M. So J to M. Okay, what else do we know? L is the midpoint. So plot that somewhere in the middle, but we can prove it's the midpoint by doing what? We could do the congruent marks, or we could also label it with the measure that we know, which we can do at the end.
And we know J all the way to M is 26. So we need to break that 26 up into those two parts, but those two parts are the same. So we know they're equal parts. So to split something up into two equal parts, what operation do we use? Division. So we're going to do 26 divided by 2. If you need a calculator, use a calculator. 26 divided by 2, 13. So nice and pretty. What was that 13 representing? M to L was what we were trying to find. Really, it could be the J to L or the L to M. They just switched it around, M to L. If I start at M and I walk backwards to L, does it change the distance? No. So ML equals 13 feet, inches. Did I talk to you guys? Answers? I think I talked to my algebra classes about it. I always box my answers. It's something I've learned since 6th grade. You do not need to box your answers, but I always do. Helps me find my answer easier. All right, we got 2 more examples. Number 2. This one, we're going to be given a drawing. So you can go ahead and draw. We're going to do a line. So a line has arrows on both sides. Four points on the line. So we have C, P, T, and then K is going to be a little bit further away if you want to try and make it look proportional to what our assignment is going to.
But remember, even if it doesn't look perfect, we'll be able to mark it either with our congruent marks or with an actual measure to make sure that we get it right.
All right. And what we know here is a couple of things. We know that T is of segment CK. We also know that P is the midpoint of CT. TK equals 54 meters. So we're going to do 54 m for meters. So we're given those three pieces of information.
So copy them down, but then take a minute to actually read through them and think about what they actually are saying. So we've got T is the midpoint of segment C to K. So picture C to K. T is the midpoint. That tells us something very important. P is the midpoint of segment C to T. That tells us something important. And then T to K is 54 meters.
I want to know in the end, and I want to know what is CK equal to.
Okay, so we're going to kind of puzzle this out.
So what could we put, what marks could we put on here? Or numbers? 4 going to go. Good, between T and K. So here's 54. What else do we know? Say that again.
The little congruent tick. Where do we put a congruent tick? Between CP and PT. How do you know that? P is the midpoint of the segment CT. Yeah.
So when we look at CT, P is in the middle. So we know that these two measurements have to be the same number. Anything else we know? We use these bottom two. We did that. P is the midpoint, 54. What about this? T is the midpoint of CK. So if I know T is the middle of CK, ignore that P for a second. If this is 54, C to T is, because T is that midpoint, so we know C to T, they're about half. Okay? And then, John Deal, what did you say? We're going to split it up. We're going to split it into 2. So 54 divided by 2. If you want to show your work, if you're going to see that number and be like, yeah, I know what I did. So 54 divided by 2 is 27. 54, but then that means that this part is 27 and this part is 27. They're both 27 because they're the same. Breaks it in half. All right, let's see if we have enough information now. Do we know what P to T is? Okay, if you want to color code it with me. So P to T. P to T. We're looking for that distance. Do we know the distance of P to T? Yeah, what is it? 27. 27 what? That last one stuck in there, meters. Okay, and then what about CK? So if I start at C, and I go all the way to K. How'd you get 108? So you just did this 54 plus 54? Yeah, that works. 54 plus 54. How else could you have gotten 108? Yeah, 54 plus 27 plus 27. But we know 27 and 27 should make that 108 meters. All right, we have one more example. I'm noticing a couple of you are running out of space. That's okay. Just go to your next page. Okay, I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, and that should be enough. But if you don't have 6 lines, it's okay to go to your next page. Okay, last example, number 3. Okay. For number 3, we know that line P bisects at point K. And we're going to draw a picture of that. Okay, so what that looks like is we're going to have TM going across. This is going to be a little bit of a smaller picture. No, oh, the line P. This one, we're going to have TM. Now the line is going to cut it in half. So now we're going to draw a line going halfway across that. Cuts it. So you could, since you're drawing your own picture, you could go just straight up and down killer, or make it a little bit like that. Now this is our line, and that is line P. So we use that lowercase p, that's not a point, goes at the end. Anything you'd like on this? Yeah, looks good? You're right. Whoops.
You have to remember that that's a lowercase p because we're not naming a point, we're naming a line.
All right, and then we know that they intersect. It bisects at point K, so that's where they touch, is at point K. So where those two lines cross is K. We're going to put in one more point here that you haven't seen yet. And that's point F. And F is going to go a little bit closer to K than M. I don't know. I just draw it sideways. Because I'm a mess today, Yusuf. Alright. Couple of things we know. We know that FM is 7, and we know that TK is 7 feet. I'm sorry, so TK is 13 feet. I want to know how much is TF.
Images, read through what we know.
You can mark up that as you go. Yep. I'm real good at that.
Alright, so let's read through what we got. We were told that line P bisects TM. What does bisects mean? Cuts it into two parts.
And the two parts are TK, I'm sorry, you're right. The parts are TK and KM. And those two parts we know are the same. When it boxes it, cuts it into two, but the two parts are
Two equal parts.
equal
They
parts.
are congruent. Okay, so the red
Now we can't use a tick mark because here I could do a tick mark with TK,
will be okay.
but can I do a tick mark between K and M? Tick mark there is going to be hard to tell if it's TF or FM. We're not sure, so we can't do that tick mark when there's another.
So we're just using red for right now. Okay, so then we also know that FM, the measure of F to M, is 7 feet. So let's label that. That little bit there is 7 feet. And we know that, so this segment here, T to K, is 13 feet. And we want to find that missing cut, that K to M, and then our question is actually asking us for the whole thing, that T to F. Okay, so that's kind of hard to see because we've got red and orange there together. But we need parts of this puzzle in order to find all those pieces. Does anyone have an idea of where they might start? Tell me where you start. Why? Yusuf says subtract 7 from 13. So 13 minus 7 is what? That give us. Yeah, and what does that tell us? Oh, good. Vivian says that tells us K to F. Very nice. Because we know that that half, that TK, is the same as that other half, that K to M. So they both need to be 13. Good. That fills in part of it. Is that what it's asking us? Was the question find KF? Oh, so we're not quite done. Now what? Good. So we're going to make up T to F. 2 plus 6. 19 feet.
I didn't box my last answer. Didn't bother me.
Alright. As you practice this today, remember, talk to your neighbors if you need to. Check back at your notes for an example and draw them
Yeah, do you want to
out.
follow the
Use those
e-helpers?
whiteboards or use the post-it notes or even draw it out in your